Hello, beautiful journey of discovery people. I'm back. I know it's been a while. I haven't seen you, or you haven't seen me, but you know what? I need to get some stuff out. I need to get some content out. I've got so much I want to share. I've got so much I want to talk about. This is my first movie review, but generally speaking, I'm only going to do movie reviews for movies that I find really compelling, powerful, deep and meaningful, with some really powerful message. So let's get straight to it. My movie review for the movie Ad Astra, starring Brad Pitt, Tommy Lee Jones, and a few other not so well-known actors. Ad Astra, basically Brad Pitt's new movie after Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. What did I think about it? Overall, I actually kind of liked it. This movie was interesting. I think most people, most of the general public at least, probably found it a little bit slow, and I think most people watching it probably would agree with that. And if you look at the Rotten Tomatoes reviews, you'll see that the critics loved it, but the general public didn't like it much at all. And that's because it is relatively slow. It starts off quite exciting, and I think pretty jam-packed. It's a great start. As Brad Pitt, you've probably seen it in many of the clips online or the trailers that they use to promote the actual movie, where he's on a massive space aerial, and basically what happens is some sort of pulse or burst of some kind, electromagnetic burst or something like that. It causes massive explosions on this aerial, and he is trying to save the day, and he basically gets blown off. So it's a massive, really action-packed opening. And basically it continues from there, and we learn that something has occurred. Something pretty devastating for the whole galaxy. And the person involved, at least that the American government believes is involved, is Brad Pitt's character's father. So this basically, Roy McBride is Brad Pitt's character, and his dad, Clifford McBride, was involved. How? Well, he was a former astronaut that was sent out into deep space around to Neptune to try to identify if there is extraterrestrial life, other beings in our universe, in our galaxy for that matter. And he's been sent out to try to find that. But because he was sent out, they believe that the access to certain scientific technology that he had is the cause of these current difficulties or problems that are plaguing Earth and the Moon and the Mars. Because basically human beings have a presence on the Moon and have a presence on Mars. And basically, they need Brad Pitt to go on a mission to try to see if he can connect and contact with his father, find a way to connect with his father to identify, is he in fact the cause of these problems, or is his ship in fact the cause of these problems, which they believe, but they've lost contact with him and they cannot communicate with him. And that's basically the gist of it. He's trying to get from Earth to his dad, or at least to Mars, where he can communicate with his dad, so that they can find out, hey, Dad, hey, Mr. McBride, is your ship the cause of these problems? If so, please shut it down. We need to do this now because it's detrimental to Earth. All right. So that's basically the gist of the movie. What did I think about it? Well, I actually really liked it. Yeah, the pace was relatively slow. There were maybe 2 to 3 moments where there's a little bit of action and it's infused into the movie and it kind of raises your spirits and gets you kind of excited. But overall, I loved the concept of the story, the main idea of it, which for me is 2 main things. The idea that a lot of our parents' issues, if you will, their fears, their insecurities, their shit, gets passed down from generation to generation. And if we don't work on ourselves, basically, we can't work through this shit. We can't work through this stuff that has been passed down from our parents. And in essence, this is what we discover within Brad Pitt's character. He's this extremely, what's the word I can use without being mean, I suppose, emotionless, completely devoid of emotion character. He's identified, he's realized in order to manage, to cope, to work in the field that he's in as an astronaut, which is extremely highly stressed environments, he needs to be completely devoid of emotion. He can't react to things. He has to completely compartmentalize things. Anything that could cause his heartbeat to raise too much is a problem. And that's made abundantly clear throughout the movie in various points and times in the movie, where he has to kind of put something over here, this little device on his carotid artery, which is, I guess, measuring his heartbeat. And he's got to talk about how he's feeling, and then it approves him for space travel or not. And this is repeated throughout the movie, which is basically showing just how good Brad Pitt's character is at completely pushing away the shit in his life, not dealing with his stuff, and just being able to focus on what he needs to in the moment. But in not dealing with that stuff, it may invariably come back later on in the movie, which it does. It's kind of like a foreshadowing, I guess. You kind of see that. It's such a big emphasis in the beginning of the movie. I'm completely calm. My heartbeat never goes above, I don't know, what did they say? Something like 80 beats. It's never gone above that, even in the opening sequence of the movie, where he's blown off a huge space, what is that again? Aerial. He's blown off the huge space aerial, and he still manages to keep his heart rate below 80, which is insane. So a major emphasis is on this, completely being devoid of emotion. And we start to learn that because of this, Brad Pitt's character has completely been cut off from any connections with people, real deep and meaningful connections. He has none, even with his ex-wife or his former wife. Because whenever she wants to connect with him, he has no desire to do so, because he can't. Because in order for him to function in the work and the job that he does, he can't be an individual who connects too much with his emotions and gets emotional. And this is a huge aspect of the movie for me. And what we ultimately discover with Brad Pitt's character is that this has occurred within him because his dad was pretty much the same. His dad's desire was so much more focused on his career, on space travel, on his desire to go into deep space and find extraterrestrial life, which I found fascinating because his dad was so obsessed with finding extraterrestrial life, with connecting with extraterrestrial beings who didn't know whether they existed or not, but he was so obsessed with trying to find them that he neglected his family and his children, and his priority was that, extraterrestrials, space travel. And that became Brad Pitt's need as well, ultimately. He kind of adopted that same mindset, that same belief, I suppose, that you need to be devoid of emotion in order to achieve your goals. You cannot feel if you want to be successful. Until we get to the point, which I find fascinating, and again, this is a spoiler now, so stop the movie if you or stop the video now if you don't want to hear this. But the point that he realizes at the end, ultimately, I don't want to tell you what he discovers at Neptune, but he does come to the realization that it's the connections that he has and that he had in his life, in every moment that he would completely disconnect from because he didn't want to feel, that were important. And more importantly, they were always there, and he realized that's what he was missing out on. He was missing out on the connections with the loved ones in his life that he had, because he never had it with his father. And he was so desperate to have that with his dad that he couldn't find a way to have it with the loved ones in his life. But he realized at the end how important that was, and he did. So, loved this movie. Such a deep and meaningful story. I'll break it down to two main ideas, morals. This idea that we kind of inherit a lot of the shit that our parents have, their fears, their insecurities, their difficulties, their limiting beliefs. We take them on. And if we don't work through them, if we don't acknowledge that we've inherited this from them, we can't really work through it because we don't understand where it came from. And we need to look into ourselves, within ourselves, just like I do when I teach mindfulness and meditation. So for me, there was that connection, and I loved that. So I loved that aspect of it. And yeah, the movie was kind of slow-paced at times, but I loved how it was building up to a particular idea, and it was sharing specific moral, if you will, or some kind of a story of a man's ultimate growth into discovering what is really important to him. And doing was less important as being and feeling, and being comfortable to express what he really wanted was just connection with his father. And when he realized he couldn't have that at the end, realizing that there was someone in his life who he could have had that with. And I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. An 8 JOD stars out of 10. I totally recommend it. Watch it if you like these kind of movies, deep, meaningful movies that are kind of like a little bit of a character study. You know, you can see how a character really grows and develops. It's really about that. And the visuals, oh my God, beside the visuals, beautiful. I love the visuals. Those alone drew me in. So yeah, I liked it. If you like those kind of movies, definitely give it a watch. Yeah. I hope you liked my little movie review. I hope it didn't rant on and rave on randomly. I hope it made somewhat sense. And I enjoyed doing this little movie review. I got a little bit excited about it because I really got excited during the movie. Well, not during the slow parts, but afterwards, thinking about it. And I realized I really wanted to make this video about it. Oh, I got to take a breath. I realized I got so excited. I was just talking like crazy there. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please subscribe and you can enjoy some of my future movie reviews and maybe even book reviews and maybe even fun and games related videos, travel videos. I like to do all kinds of videos. And follow me on my journey. And comment down below if you have any suggestions. Like the video, subscribe, and hopefully see you next time. Until then, ciao for now.